When a ghost enters the boot world, a ghost's world, he's mocked and questioned about his abilities as a ghost as he is unsuccessful to scare any child. As a result, he must return back to Earth from his world to prove he is a worthy ghost. But on Earth, he has something more to do for his country. As the movie begins, we witness Kailash Nath, known as Bhoothnath, describing Ghost's Realm, also known as Boot World, a misty place located outside of the Earth. Bhoothnath then enters a beautiful palace that serves as the Boot World's primary office. Inside, the office appears to be identical to any government office on the Earth. A number of employees can be observed working on things. Then, Bhoothnath approaches one of the workers. He inquires about the procedure for returning to Earth as a human once more. The employee hands him a token and instructs Bhoothnath to wait in line. The token has a very huge number on it. Bhoothnath is impatient to be in that spot at this time. He then inquires as to whether he will be able to return to Earth in the near future. The employee requests that he discuss the problem with his superior officer. Bhoothnath then leaves the premises with the token. People around him start laughing and mock him as soon as they see him. He sits alone outside, oblivious of why people are laughing at him. A ghost approaches him a few moments later, laughing at him. Bhoothnath inquires as to why he's being mocked by everyone. He then tells him about his previous incarnation as a ghost, in which he failed to scare any child on Earth and disgraced the entire ghost culture. After that, he hurries to Boot World's main office and enters the senior's office. He inquires as to whether or not this may be averted and if he can be resurrected on Earth sooner. There is a method, the senior officer says to Bhoothnath, for this to happen sooner. He tells him to return to Earth as a ghost and scare some kids. Only then would he be able to rehabilitate himself as a human on Earth. In the next scene, Bhoothnath finally returns to the Earth. He arrives in India and tries his hardest to scare youngsters, but he is ineffective since children have grown to be physically, psychologically, and vocally strong. Later that evening, Bhoothnath is sitting alone beside a haunted house. He attempts yet again to scare some children who were playing cricket nearby, but he fails. After a few moments, we see a young child named Akrod who can see him in his true form. Even after learning the truth, Akrod is not afraid of Bhoothnath. Bhoothnath Returns is a sequel to 2008's Bhoothnath. The film is set in a chaotic urban locality and features a fearless street kid. This movie is like a political satire in which a ghost takes on a corrupt politician by fighting elections against him. As he returns to Boot World, he's greeted with taunts and condemnation from other ghosts for bringing disrepute to the ghost community for getting bullied by a kid on Earth. Post the humiliation, Bhoothnath decides to redeem himself and come back to scare a bunch of kids. The story moves forward as Bhoothnath inquires Akrod about how to scare children like him. Akrod then devises a scheme with Bhoothnath to terrify a few children. But in exchange, Bhoothnath has to act scared of him and flee from the haunted house while chanting mantras in front of the children. Akrod wants Bhoothnath to do so to prove his worth and get accepted into their cricket team. In the next scene, Bhoothnath is given a tour of Akrod's home. He lives in Dharavi, a slum neighborhood in Mumbai. Akrod brings Bhoothnath to his residence a few minutes later when he informs his mother about Bhoothnath. Bhoothnath's mother, on the other hand, is terrified of Bhoothnath and begs him to leave the house immediately and stop talking to him. After witnessing Akrod and his mother's hardship, Bhoothnath tries to assist Akrod by helping make him some money. Bhoothnath informs Akrod that he will steal money from a wealthy person and deliver it to him, but Akrod denies stealing money. When speaking with Bhoothnath, Akrod says that there is a structure under construction that is also plagued by a ghost. Finally, Bhoothnath resolves to help Akrod even further by assisting him in earning money by providing peace to ghosts living in under construction high buildings. But to do this, he must satisfy their dreams for which they are still staying on Earth as ghosts. In the next scene, Bhoothnath and Akrod arrive at Rawat's Builders, the owner of the under construction building. Mr. Rawat is then informed about Akrod's plot to have the ghost removed from his under construction building in exchange for money. Mr. Rawat agrees. Bhoothnath and Akrod then proceed to the building. They are attacked by ghosts once they are there, and they learn more about the ghosts there as time goes on. The ghost was one of the building's engineers who passed away with no one caring. Then the engineer's ghost explains that he's residing in the under construction building since his family is suffering and he cannot obtain the insurance money. Following this, Bhoothnath informs the engineer's ghost that he would help his family in receiving the insurance funds. On their way to the insurance office, Bhoothnath and Akrot devise a scheme to frighten the corrupt insurance officers to handing over the insurance money. The duo scares the corrupt officer and obtains the engineer's family's insurance money in the process. Following this encounter, the engineer's ghost agrees to depart from the under-construction building, allowing Akrot to receive his monetary incentive from Mr. Rawat. Back in Akrot's house, the landlord is requesting the house's rent from his mother. Akrot arrives soon after and pays his landlord the money he has earned earlier. Bhoothnath then tells his mother that he helped him earn the money by doing good work. Bhoothnath then tells everything about their new relationship to his mother and eventually convinces his mother to let Bhoothnath stay with Akrot. In the next scene, Bhoothnath teams up with Akrot to help many under-construction buildings free themselves of ghosts, allowing Akrot to make more money. Meanwhile, a man named Ba'u, a former criminal who is now a corrupt politician, learns about Akrot and his ability to free ghosts from under-construction buildings. Ba'u requests Akrot to assist him in removing the ghost from his under-construction building project as well. He offers Akrot a substantial sum of money. As a result, Akrot and Ba'u are in an agreement. Later that day, Bhoothnath is seen sitting with Akrot and conversing. After his final work with Akrot, Bhoothnath informs him that he will return to Boot World. A few minutes later, Bhoothnath and Akrot arrive at Ba'u's building site. They soon discover that there are not only one, but more than 10 ghosts in the area. At first, the ghost accuses Bhoothnath of being bought with money by corrupt people like Ba'u. Eventually, Bhoothnath and Akrot learn that the ghosts are the people who were murdered by Ba'u and whose lands he seized for his construction site. After hearing this, Bhoothnath and Akrot feel awful and decide to not assist Ba'u with his duties. But Ba'u doesn't care and warns Akrot to finish his work anyhow. Later that night, Bhoothnath and Akrot talk about corrupt politicians like Ba'u and India's corruption. Bhoothnath should stand for election in the upcoming elections, according to Akrot, because winning the election is the only way to get rid of politicians like Ba'u. The next day, the duo travel to see some of the lawyers to learn more about the election candidacy. There, Bhoothnath discovers that even a ghost can stand for election. However, a police clearance report and a mental health report are required for Bhoothnath's candidacy to be valid. Soon, Bhoothnath goes to the police station to obtain his police clearance report, and then to a psychiatrist to obtain a regular mental health report. Next, Bhoothnath, Akrot, and his lawyer head to the electoral office to register Bhoothnath for the election. The election officer hesitates at first, but eventually registers Bhoothnath since he believes he's a good candidate. Ba'u, on the other hand, is surprised to learn of Bhoothnath's candidacy and bursts out laughing. He then chooses to announce his election intentions on a television interview. The next day, Bhoothnath conducts a TV interview in which he exposes his genuine motivation for standing for election, which is to eliminate corruption. Ba'u resolves to go against Bhoothnath after seeing his interview, so he organizes a gathering in which he says horrible things about Bhoothnath in the hopes of winning people's hearts and votes. After seeing Ba'u's protest, Bhoothnath resolves to make a name for himself in the public eye. Thus, he chooses to aid the people by addressing fundamental requirements such as sanitation and clean water. The next day, Bhoothnath and Ba'u appear on television in an interview. Ba'u criticizes Bhoothnath, claiming that he's abusing his power and as a result, he would finally win the election. Ba'u also claims that due to Bhoothnath's strength, he will undoubtedly lose the election. Bhoothnath and Ba'u's competition soon heats up to the point where Bhoothnath sacrifices his powers in order to win. Later that night, Bhoothnath is seen being scolded by Akrot for abandoning his power due to Ba'u. Meanwhile, Ba'u instructs his lawyer to research Bhoothnath's background and assist him in withdrawing from the election race. The lawyer discovers the next day that a dead person cannot vote, and people who are unable to vote are unable to stand for election. This information is made available through newspapers and news channels, disappointing Bhoothnath and Akrot in the end. One day, Banku's father visits Bhoothnath and informs him that his death certificate was never issued because his sons refused to provide money to dishonest officials. In the next scene, Bhoothnath and Ba'u are seen in the Electoral Commission office together. Ba'u instructs the election officer to disqualify Bhoothnath from running in the election, but he's unable to do so after validating all of the documentation. Later that day, Bhoothnath informs Akrot and his lawyer that a good candidate loses the election because half of the electorate does not vote. As a result, he intends to promote public awareness about the need of voting in the forthcoming election. Because Bhoothnath suffers from stage fright, he's unable to hold a rally in front of the public, so they decide to capture his voice and use it in a rally. The recorded voice is played in front of the crowd on the day of the demonstration. However, the tape becomes corrupted after some time, and despite his stage fear, Bhoothnath himself takes the stage and talks. Bhoothnath invites citizens to obtain a voter identification card and to vote in the upcoming election. Following that, we find that many people are hurrying to create their voter identification cards. Later that night, Bhau learns that Bhoothnath will hold a huge rally one day before the elections to promote a high turnout on election day. In any case, Bhau orders his men to stop the rally. The men threaten to kill Akrot if he does not stop the rally from taking place, but Akrot resists and is prepared to face the consequences. On the day of the rally, Bhau's men observe the rally preparations and inform him about it. He tells his men to kidnap and kill Akrot in order to prevent the rally from taking place. Then we notice that Akrot is distributing election templates to the general public. Soon, Bhau's men arrive at the scene and attempt to capture him. Akrot tries to flee, but he's eventually captured by Bhau's men. Soon, Bhoothnath leaves his rally to visit Akrot in the hospital after Bhau's goons severely injure him for his non-compliance. He talks to Akrot's mother in the hospital and blames himself for Akrot's condition. Soon after, his mother explains that Akrot had been threatened to stop the rally, but he refused to do so and was ready to face the consequences. His mother tells him that he should be proud of his kid for what he has done. Bhoothnath then travels to the Bhoot world and pleads for Akrot's life. They tell him that if Bhoothnath wins the election, Akrot's life will be spared. Meanwhile, Bhau takes advantage of Bhoothnath's absence from the gathering and tries to persuade the audience to vote for him. In the next scene, Bhoothnath returns to the hospital, and he discovers that Bhau took advantage of his absence at the rally, and as a result of Bhau's influence, no one will vote for Bhoothnath. Next, Bhoothnath informs the lawyer that the only way to spare Akrot's life is to win the election. Meanwhile, Bhau's men are paying individuals to vote for him, with money and wine. However, on election day, the majority of the public voted for Bhoothnath. In the final scene of the movie, Bhoothnath sees Akrot's heartbeat rising and realizes that he won the election. The movie ends with Akrot regaining consciousness and everybody celebrating the success of Bhoothnath. The end. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.